Now we'll go over how to use outside feeds as content on your site. News feeds provide a great way to pull in content from other websites and display it on yours. This allows you to aggregate related content and present your users with more relevant information. RSS news feeds are the basis of how blogs and other sites syndicate their content, and it is as well established and accepted practice that relevant sites will pick up feeds and present them to their users. You can use this to present useful content to your visitors from relevant sources. First, we'll mention one important thing about search engine optimization and how they view what is called duplicate content. Google and other search engines do not allow you to claim other sites' previously published content as your own. They have filters in place to identify and remove what seems like duplicate content. So generally, it would not be a wise idea to build an entire site around outside news feeds and hope Google will rank your site for the content of those feeds. You should always consider using syndicated content appropriately and blend it with your own in order to present added value. Search engines may even blacklist or remove your domain from their indexes if you use a very large portion of other sites' content relative to your own. Pages made up of a lot of feed-based content are not likely to rank for keywords. So, that said, it's still useful and appropriate to share syndicated content with your users if you're using it sparingly and blend it with your own unique content. Here's how to use Joomla to display feeds. First of all, Joomla supports two ways to display feeds. First, as full menu items, and second, as modules on any page. Our recommendation is that you do not use the newsfeed menu item, as the resulting page is really just a duplicate view of some other site's newsfeed. You may consider it for some sites, but it is not something that will look very interesting to search engines. We'll cover both options now. Let's start with the newsfeed component and menu items. Getting back to the example of our newspaper site, we'll add a menu item for world news feeds. We'll add two feeds for now, CNN.com and BBC.co.uk. To do this, let's go to the Components menu and select Categories under the newsfeed item. This will allow us to create any number of categories so we can group together our feeds. Go ahead and create a World News category now. Okay, now that we have a category, we can add the feeds. Each site may have a slightly different way to find the appropriate news feed. Some sites may have more than one feed as well. If we visit CNN.com, we can see that there's a main site feed here. For major news sites, we often find that they have their own page dedicated to finding feeds. In this case, CNN provides such a page. So let's have a look. Now all we need to do is cut and paste the appropriate feed. In this case, we'll use the World feed. Let's go back to Joomla and add this feed. Click New in the Newsfeed Manager. We'll add the name as CNN World News and place the feed URL in the link field. We'll select the World News category and save. Now go ahead and do the same for the news.bbc.co.uk site's main feed. Okay, now that you have the feeds, go ahead and create a top-level menu item on the main menu pointing to the News Feeds category list layout. Call it Other News Sources and save. Now, if we visit the front end, it should look something like this. The new menu item will display a list of feed categories, then a list of feeds, and finally the content of the feeds themselves. We frankly find this interface a bit awkward for users, but you could work on ways to make it more usable by pointing menu items directly to the category of interest or even to a single feed. The resulting pages are still a bit simple. You can also go back and select options such as Show Feed Description or Show Item Descriptions to display more content from the feed, including excerpts if they're provided. The second way to use external feeds is a completely different method altogether. Here we can create modules and display them on any page. This actually turns out to be a much easier method to use, so let's go over how to do that. To do this, we simply go to the Module Manager and click New. We select the Feed Display module, set it to CNN.com World News, and position it on the right. We'll set it to appear in the Home and World News menu items. Now all we need to do is paste the URL for the CNN World News feed into the Feed URL field and set a few options. For sidebar modules, it's a good idea to just show the links, so we'll turn off the title descriptions and images for now. If you had a feed that had very short item excerpts, you could enable these item descriptions to show if you like. You can also use the word count to limit it as well. So let's have a look at this module in action. As you can see, the right sidebar has a module displaying the contents of the CNN feed. This doesn't change the focus of the page, but it just adds some more value to the reader. We can build pages with multiple feeds, place the modules anywhere we like, and otherwise be as creative as we want using feeds. It's a good way to flesh out pages with useful content if you haven't had a chance to develop it yet. And, of course, embedding someone's blog feed on your site is something a lot of bloggers would really appreciate. It can be a good way to develop a relationship with other content producers in the community. That covers how to add an outside module to your site. In the next video, we'll cover how to create feeds.